Hello, Jacob here. Going to discuss a little Minnesota Vikings for you, just kind of overall general idea of what I feel about this team moving into the 2019 season, post draft and post OTAs essentially. Moving into this upcoming season, the one thing that I really hope to see improvement on is our offensive line. Because, well, last year I would probably most Vikings fans would agree that that was definitely our Achilles heel. And then again, it also didn't help that we lost Tony Sperano, you know, early on in the year, going into preseason, if I remember right. I can't exactly remember, but it's always a bad time when you lose like a coach in any field. From like tight ends to special teams to offensive line to, even assistants, especially with that little time. And then, yeah, it that didn't help. But then again, it also didn't help that, well, we had some key injuries as well. Like guys like Easton and, just banged up like throughout the course of the year. And the players that we had, yeah, let's just say some games were less than desirable. Damn you, Buffalo. If we would have beaten Buffalo, I feel like, but then again, the whole woulda, coulda, freaking shoulda, it's just like, you can never play that game just because, all it takes is one play in any of the other games, and we're looking at anywhere from like 5-11 to like 12-4, or, 13-3. But no, we finished 8-7-1, and again, dude, that's another thing, for whatever reason, just in the last few years that has always also bugged me, other than the offensive line, is our special teams, most importantly, kicking/kick holders. Yeah. When you have a rookie kicker, win the starting job, like, not even 3 weeks into preseason, of course, I was just like, we'll see, because, sometimes, new blood, really no expectations. And he goes out and absolutely stinks the joint up. Now, whether or not that was all his fault at the time, again, the whole woulda, coulda, shoulda, blah, 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 you never know. But I also kind of put some of that on Matt Weil, just because I know that even when we moved on from, you know, Daniel Carlson and moved into the whole, Dan Bailey era, which at the time Dan Bailey was like one of the top 5 most accurate kickers, at least of the modern time, if not of all times. So again, there's something off with the scheme, or just overall in general. So hopefully we have that all shored up with the new special teams mantra. And I'd also be kind of interested to see if we run a little more fakes and, just a little more flashy plays. I know that I'm not a huge fan necessarily of the flashy plays, but I agree. There's some times where it's really cool and really awesome. Like, I still remember the 2015 Week 17 game up in Green Bay when we ran a fake punt with Adam Thielen, and he ran for like 20 yards en route to us winning that game and, clinching the NFC North for, I want to say, the first time since like 2009, I believe, at that time. So, yeah, not necessarily all the time, again, just, but, let's spice it up a little bit here, boys. It gets a little stale after a while when you just keep running predictable stuff. Now, obviously, don't run it when you're on your own 20 freaking yard line, on like a 4th and 30 or some stupid stuff like that. No, 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 no. Or don't pull what the freaking Colts did like 4 years ago. And yeah, that was an ugly, ugly play against the Patriots that I still don't know what the hell they were thinking even this far along. But yeah, also it'll be interesting to see because we're going to have most of our defensive starters back. Just kind of just another year on, the old belt, and of course adding a few more key pieces. I'm more curious to see also how Xavier Rhodes looks this year, after that whole injury slash really kind of a disappointing year for him last year after being such a shutdown force over the last couple of years, leading up to last year. But then again, I think overall the whole team just kind of they felt stale. And that's kind of hard to say, especially when you have, on offense, when you have Thielen, when you have Diggs, when you have Dalvin Cook. Now, I will say, part of that issue with the whole running game had to do, I feel, with Dalvin Cook being, injured from the year before and them rushing him back from that ACL he suffered his rookie year. So I wonder if maybe he still wasn't 100% going into week one, and the fact that he, nagging injuries and then ended up, with another injury. I want to say it was a groin injury, and then having that kind of linger, and plus with the lack of an offensive line, well, you can probably see why our running game stunk for the beginning of the year. That and also DiFilippo running his style of offense that really didn't fit our style of offense, if that makes any sense whatsoever, because Kirk Cousins is not a mobile quarterback. Never has been, never will be. So I think with, the whole Kubiak scheme, hopefully finally, with our offensive scheme, we can actually fit the quarterback, because if Kirk Cousins has enough time around him, he can be one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league, and just dangerous and deadly, kind of like a Sam Bradford. You just don't, really necessarily want him running naked bootlegs the whole time. He's not like a Russell Wilson or Dak Prescott. But, I mean, he still has wheels. I will admit that. So. And then, of course, just all these new coaches that come into, gelling everybody with, the new playbooks and, all this and that and the other things. So, with all that being said, going into it, at least at this point, I could see, the Vikings going, I don't know. I have a feeling the Vikings are going to be probably 10-6 to 11-5, because there's a few tough games in there that'll be interesting to see. And then, of course, there's always those games that we should win, but, Buffalo last year, but there's not much you can really do about that other than just, you got to play the teams that are in front of you, It's just, you got to play with the hands you're dealt, because everyone goes through injuries, everyone goes through, new schemes and all that stuff. Plus, it'll be interesting to see in the NFC North this year just how things actually shake up, especially with the Packers and the Bears. Just because, well, Packers also have an all-new regime, which will be interesting to see how, things play out with that. And, of course, Chicago, can they build on the success they had last year? Yeah, I would say Khalil Mack being, one of the defensive stalwarts in the whole NFL, being one of the best defensive players, if not the best defensive player in all of the league. I mean, yeah, sure, their defense should be solid. It's just, can Trubisky continue doing what he did last year with, actually not looking like 2017 Trubisky? But then again, it's amazing what can happen when you put the quarterback with the right coach. Again, just ask Case Keenum with Pat Sherman in 2017 how that went. Even though I have a feeling that was probably more of our defense at that point, being darn near historic, I will say, at that point. So, So, yeah, I mean, I just figured I'd kind of come on and just sort of give you my general ideas. I hope during the season to actually do more recaps and just kind of, discuss the games as they go on, kind of what I see, kind of what I, like and don't like necessarily about each game, kind of like a few people that I'm subscribed to do, So, that being said, you guys have a wonderful night, and Skol Vikes.